Now, I like to lead things off with a couple of questions of my own. Oh, I like this headgear you got going here. There we go. Somebody.
You didn't bring it on?
I forgot about beanie, bro. Sorry.
You had one job, Emilio. Come on. So I'm going to ask a couple things. We got two audience Q&A mics. You got one set up right over there, one right over here, way over there. So go ahead and start lining up. To kick things off, lots of different fandoms intersect at these shows.
It's a terrifying mask.
That's the name. We got Star Wars, we got whatever that is.
I wasn't nervous until I saw you.
What were you guys fans of when you were kids? Like, what would you be coming to a show like this as a kid to meet people from, to see cosplayers dressed up as? What were your fandoms when you were younger?
A huge one for me was John Borman's Excalibur, King Arthur story. I watched the unedited, I don't know how familiar you are, it's kind of, I think it might have been 1980, that film might have been made the year of my birth. So maybe some of you haven't seen it, but there were a couple of racy moments in that, and I had, like you did back in the day, recorded it on television. And
we all remember Clash of the Titans as well.
Yeah,
there were a few of those moments.
Yeah, right. And I watched it, with 40 commercial breaks a couple times through, and then maybe the third time I went to watch it, all of a sudden the news was playing over those racy parts, and my mom had decided to watch it and edited it for us. But that film, it was the first film I remember watching over and over and over again as a kid.
Ryan, what were you into?
I was a comic book nerd, like superhero nerd, since I was really, really little. Like Superman, Popeye, Zorro, Indiana Jones, Star Wars. Everything is. If Superman was probably the biggest, is when I was probably 4 or 5, and I saw Superman, and I dressed up like Superman 24/7. Slept with a cape, went to school with a cape. I mean, I committed. So yeah, I've always been a fan of the stories of the town.
I'm glad I wasn't the only kid who went to school with a Superman cape at some point. I feel less alone.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Both of us got one.
Yeah, but mine was like my uncle made it was actually made, with that silky. It was dope.
I just had the
Oh, and then also like Greatest American Hero. I loved Greatest American Hero. It was such a great show. It was always like, he dropped the book. It was like, if he just would have not dropped the book, it would have been a better show. Guy gets a suit. He has instructions, and it's a super suit, and he can't work it. I love it.
Emilio, what were you a fan of when you were a kid?
I come from a different time, man. I come from black and white stuff, so my thing was like gangster movies, man. Angel with Dirty Faces is still my favorite movie of all time, and and the Monsters, Adam's Family, Mayberry RFD, I'm talking about. So that's the stuff I still watch to this day. I have all these channels, and I just watch MeTV. You dig? So
great TV is great TV.
I dig it, man. It's so black and white. Sometimes I watch a movie and I just change it to black and white so I can see it better. You dig? I'm old school, man. Yeah, that's me, man. It just gives it more realism, you dig? But I gotta tell you, on the flip side of that, when I was growing up, we were very poor, and so the only TV we had was a hand-me-down with no antenna, so everything was black and white and fuzzy, right? And we used to watch a show called Mod Squad, which we loved every Tuesday night. Remember that? And I found out they were filming in the neighborhood, so we all got dressed up and we went to go see them film, and we saw all the guys coming out, but I didn't think it was them because they were in color. You know what I mean? It was just kind of weird, man. So it's kind of cool, man. It's badass.
Let me ask you guys one more thing. I'm going to turn it over to the audience. In your careers thus far, Charlie, you played Arthur, so you really got to do that. Tell us a story about some of the roles you guys got to play that felt like you were like, this is my job, I'm getting paid to do this thing that I would have killed to do as a kid. That maybe is living out one of those fandoms, those things that you were a fan of. Arthur, I'm sure, but are there other things that you've particularly gotten to do that really meant a lot to you?
Yeah, as I grew a little older in my teenage years, I got obsessed with American crime cinema. You know, a lot of Scorsese and stuff like that. So when I first read Sons of Anarchy, I felt like it was the thing that I'd always been dreamed of doing, you know? And that experience of that, in terms of the brotherhood, and the experience outside of actually filming, was the first time I had the experience of what I imagined the best case scenario of being an actor would be, where you sort of become part, and you know, your brothers in the TV show become your brothers in real life. I mean, we would ride our bikes to work every day. You know, it's like we were for that little period of time, like a little motorcycle club. You know.
How about you, Ryan?
What was the question again?
I mean, stuff that you've gotten to do in your career that is kind of living out some of those fandoms from your childhood.
Everything. Everything. You get to, you know, it's like you get to play pretend for money. You know what I mean? And have a blast doing it. I mean, of course, there's, you know, hard days like anything, but, you know, and everything sort of, you know, you cannot be, you know, like they say, you could be an ice cream taster, and on a certain day, you know, that certain day that you show up, you're like, I hate my job. Sure, but in the general sense, you know, we're getting to play pretend and make a lot of money doing it. It's a blast. It's a blast. It's a dream come true.
Emilio, how about you?
Yeah, you know, I was blessed to, you know, work a lot before Sons, but I gotta tell you, man, you know, being on Sons, Charlie said it was a brotherhood, and it was a true family. It really was, man. So when I saw it all come to an end, it was kind of broke my heart, you know. And kind of, you know, and the thing is, you know, you do it for so long, it becomes a job, you know. And Sons of Anarchy for me was not a job. It was something I wanted to go to, you know. So, you know, God bless, you know, we got our own show, my engine on, so I got to go back and do it all over. I'm in the last part of my career, and I'm having the time of my life, man. So it's really cool, man. You know.
So something came to mind. Charlie, with both you and Elijah Wood here, we have something of a Green Street Hooligans reunion.
Yeah.
Moving on to big fan. Back in the day, I sent off with a leather cuff that Lexi was sending out and everything. What was working on that like, and establishing the rapport, the relationship that you had with Elijah on that movie?
Again, that was sort of like one of the first experiences, I suppose before Sons of Anarchy is the first experience that I had where I felt like, to a certain degree, we owned it, and it was like peer-to-peer filmmaking. Like, I really felt like part of the community of people making that. And it was incredible. I mean, we sort of went and lived that as much as we could. We found this firm of hooligans and, you know, unlikely contenders. Elijah and I went and, you know, spent a couple of weeks going to football matches with them, and, you know, tried not to get involved when they would start fights in the street. And, you know, but it was wild and crazy, and, you know, and we both felt like we, you know, had something very precious with that script, and something that, you know, just felt exciting and alive, and the experience of it, you know, sort of was that making it.
Well, let's turn it over to the audience. Let's start right over here.
Is it? Hello? Okay.
There we go.
Hi. So I have kind of a two-part question. The first one being like best role you've ever had. Second one being, because I know I almost rioted when they killed Ope off the show. What was the most tragic death on the show for you guys?
Definitely Opie.
I saw it in your face in that scene. We could all see the emotion there. Well, I think we all had the same look.
Yeah, but I mean, Kurt went for it. I mean, there were a lot of significant people didn't make it to the end of that show, so we went through a few. I mean, you know, Tara was pretty rough. Having to kill my mom was pretty rough. You know, so.
I don't do it.
Yeah, by the way, spoilers for literally the entire damn show.
Yeah, I realize I'm not great at not ruining shows, so apologies for that. I figured it's 8 years old, so if you were going to watch it, you would have by now.
There's a good reason why all of you are here.
And the thing with Opie, you know, the thing is like, Opie for me is one of the hardest deaths with Sons, even in my age, you know, because now we kill people on my age, but they're like, it wasn't Opie, you know what I'm talking about? Nobody took it as hard as Opie, you did, so it's good, man.
It was really hard. I feel, you know, we all had a difficult time saying goodbye to these characters. I remember Ryan, you know, having it seemingly from the outside to me like it was really difficult because the show continued and we all continued going to work, and this thing that was sort of all encompassing and took over our whole lives, both personally and professionally, time sort of came to an end for him, and we continued. And you know, I had a similar experience. But you want to talk about that? I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about it at all, but that was such an amazing. Well, you wrote that beautiful piece called "The Last Rites of Opie Winston."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I remember you said that you found yourself, you know, I'll paraphrase. There's something about like this idea that we all carry a graveyard of characters within us, and it's sort of part of the deal of being an actor.
Yeah.
You bring these characters to life, and then you have to kill them, and they sort of stay with you a little bit. But this was the first time Ryan had the experience where the son of a bitch didn't want to die. He was still alive, you know. He went to a bookstore. It was looking at all these books, and there was 1,000 books on character development and how to create character, and not a single chapter in any of them of how to kill him when you were finished. So we ended up doing the logical thing in this situation and cut his beard off with a samurai sword.
Absolutely.
We said,
That'll kill the motherfucker. That'll put him to bed.
And then he came back as Beta, so.
But it's also one of those things as an actor. It's kind of a bit of a new art form. Like I've said this a few times, but is, you know, up until 20 years ago, there weren't that many shows that went more than 4 or 5 seasons. You know, it was sort of a handful. You know, you would do a show, you do maybe 1 or 2 seasons. You know, when you do a movie, you shoot it for 3 months, and then it's done, and it kind of lives forever. But and then you, as an actor, you know, you kind of have the life of a gypsy, which is like you're just kind of freelancing, looking for the next thing, and which is the greatest part about it for me. And people always ask me like, "What's your favorite role?" And I'm always like, "The next one." It's not the one that I just did. It's always about, you know, we're here not just as people, but as artists, other way around. Not just as artists, as people to create stuff, you know, to have different experiences. So that's always my favorite. But when, you know, television really, you know, we're sort of in the golden age of TV and streaming and everything, where these shows go for, you know, Walking Dead is like 11 years, you know, and these shows go on forever. You know, for an actor, it becomes really a different art form, which is that you have to start making creative decisions that might affect your character 11 years from now. It's just kind of a crazy idea. So there's an adjustment there, and also, you know, if you get killed off, you gotta go. You know, the friendships and the stuff that you made, but also the sort of resonance of the character that you've been playing for so long. It's kind of like in your nervous system, in your creative, you know, pool of whatever you're pulling from, becomes something that you're like, oh my God, now that's I can't go back to that pool anymore. So it's an interesting sort of mental, creative process.
You know, I gotta say, is, you know, I've said it in interviews before, but I'll say it not because I have Charlie and Ryan here, first time together like that. But the saddest you saw when Opie got killed on the show, that was sad. It broke my heart. But you know what broke my heart even more, man, is that when we had the table reading, when Opie was not there, and Jax told us what he felt about Ryan Hurst, and it was so fucking beautiful, bro. It was fucking touching, bro. We were fucking crying like babies. It was so, it was amazing. It was amazing. I'll never forget that day, brother. It was beautiful.
I'm gonna stop now because I'm gonna stop.
All right, let's go right over here.
Thank you.
Hi, I know there's been a lot of references to the show in the beginning being similar to Hamlet, but then Kurt Sutter kind of revealed it was more similar to the story of Jesus and Jax. You know, kind of looking at you dying and for the sins of your club and for your family, and I think even the detail of like your ending with your arms out, like kind of similar to the cross. Was all that true, and kind of what are your thoughts on all that?
Was it a surprise that you were doing the hero with 1,000 faces?
No. That part of it. You know, I feel as though the Hamlet of it gave Kurt an essential structure, because sort of as Ryan said, he had to make a bunch of creative choices in the beginning that he was going to have to answer for or answer to, you know, in success 7 or 8 years later. So I think he needed, because it was the first time he was being, you know, the boss on the show and the main driving force, I think that gave him a sense of structure that he could rely on. You know, and it was my sense that as the show went on, that became less and less significant to him. The Jesus Christ of it all is the first I'm hearing of it.
A revelation on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, there you go. I sometimes, when I used to ride my bike, like, you know, 'cause I had bars that are up like this, sometimes, you know, the shoulders can, on a long ride, can get a little, you know, worn out. And sometimes, you know, I'd sort of slow down and stretch myself out while I was riding. And I don't think that was anything that was scripted. I think that was just something that I had done on the day to sort of give options on the final edits of the ambiguity of that final act. You know, there were versions of that, again, horrible spoilers, but you know, there's versions of that where it could have looked like one thing, and there were versions that we shot that might have looked like something else. And I think there was probably a very specific idea in Kurt's mind. But by that point in the show, I felt kind of like Kurt's partner, and I would take it upon myself to, you know, give different interpretations of things. You know, not that he ever used any of them, but, you know. So, but I think that is maybe the one time that he used something that maybe wasn't planned, you know, but maybe he'd have a different story, I don't know.
Thank you.
I don't know if I answered your question at all. I certainly said a lot of words though, so we'll stop
The
there.
mythology keeps building on itself even after the mythology's over. Go right over here.
Hi, sorry you can't really see me. I'm in
No,
a
we can see you.
wheelchair.
You see,
I just wanted to say that I've been a huge fan ever since Sons have come out. And I actually, me and my mom used to get in fights because she would watch a season or two without me. And when the Mayans came out, she watched all of the Mayans without me, with my best friend. But,
that's a deep cut.
Yeah, talk about generational strife, right?
and I'm recently engaged, and,
Congratulations.
and if I ever have a son, I've always told everyone in my life that his name was going to be Jax.
That's
But
fantastic.
I just wanted to say to all of you, thank you for creating such an amazing show, and especially the emotion and the feeling of family that you guys represent is amazing. And I'm still mad at my mom for watching without me.
Don't worry, my wife watched Ozark without me. I was pissed off too. Feel your pain.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Of course.
I'm very happy that you brought you to some happiness, and sorry about the family drama.
Oh, it's fine.
Let me ask a little follow-up based on that. What's it like getting these stories? People come to your tables and tell you about bonding with their family members, or in some cases, breaking up with their family members, watching the show and going on that journey with you guys, and tough times that it helped people get through. What's that experience been like, coming out to cons and getting those kinds of stories from the other side of the table?
It's the best, you know what I mean? Because, like I said, we as a human species, we learn so much through stories. So to be on one side of the table and kind of like trying to provide as much light and guidance and, you know, fun and, you know, adventure and you know, morality through our work, to be able to actually hear somebody go like, this actually meant something to me. It wasn't just something that I like drank my beer out, which people do also, but it's like drink my beer and like relax to, but if somebody says, you know, I was really going through something and this helped me. As an artist, that's the crown jewel. There's nothing higher. You know what I mean? Is because in the end, all artists are trying to be some form of healers, right? You know, is that it's not just about self-expression, it's about, you know, the expression of the human experience. So it's like when you get that feedback it really makes you feel like, right, cool, doing my job.
Usually.
Well, you know, it's funny you brought that up. Last night we all went and had some dinner, and some guy, before we got sat down, some guy came up to me and said, hey man, when I was going through some things, Sons of Anarchy got me through it. And he goes, I just recently went through some things and mine has got me through it. So it's really beautiful, man. You know what I'm saying? It's really well said.
I had
We
a,
get that a lot. We get that a lot. That's great.
I've told this story before, but I love it. I went to, I don't know exactly know where, but a neighborhood in East LA that I'd never been to before that, you know, felt a little risky for me to be in, you know? And I went there because I'd seen online that this bike shop had a kind of tire that I wanted, and so I rode my bike out there, and the guys recognized me and said, oh, we have those tires and we'd be happy to change them right now. And I said, all right, great. And they said it'll take us like 35, 45 minutes. So I went outside on the street and was just sort of waiting in this car of really, really serious young gentlemen drove by slowly, all of them looking at me and not smiling at all. Like very slow U-turn. He drove up onto the sidewalk towards me, and all four doors opened, and they all got out, still not smiling. And I, you know, stood my ground, quivering a little, and they said, still not smiling, you're homeless. We just want to thank you. And I said, for what? They said, you keep the hood safe on Tuesday nights.
Oh, love that.
And I said, wow, radical.
They were my cousins.
Emilio said that.
Do you remember that story with the cops that was similar to that when we were out? We were out, and you know, we were all sort of hanging out after filming, and in a different part of the neighborhood, and this cop car comes up, and you know, we're all kind of like sitting there smoking and looking devious. And they're like, yeah, hey, what are you guys doing? And we're like, oh, we're just hanging out. And they're like, did you see a guy run by here like covered in blood with a knife? And we were like, no. And then one of the partners goes, oh my God, you guys are all in Sons of Anarchy. And they start talking to us. And they talk to us for like 15 or 20 minutes, and we're sitting there talking, at which point, like, Charlie goes, aren't you supposed to go find the dude covered in blood? And they go, we're never gonna catch him. I love that episode when you, yo.
On that note, right over here.
To top that off, question for Charlie. What's your thought on the internet fan casting for you as Green Arrow?
Yeah, I'm waiting for some official casting. I keep being asked about this, but there have been no official conversations whatsoever. So we'll see. Are they actually planning to make a movie? Is there some discussion about that? Tell me, what do you got for me?
I don't know. With Erza Miller and Amber Heard, it's a little crazy right now. So.
We'll look to the internet for updates. The most authoritative source for information.
Right on. Thank you.
Right over here.
First of all, I just want to say thank you to you guys. I'm a new Son of Anarchy fan. I had a friend recommend it to me while I was going through radiation therapy. I needed a distraction, and boy, did he not disappoint with that recommendation. Because despite everything I was going through, I was getting that release by watching your guys' show and having a distraction from the shit I was going through. And I want to thank you guys so much for getting me through that. But I do have a question for you guys. Episode or scenes? What was the most difficult scene or episode you as a character, all three of you, had to film for Sons?
I know the answer for me. There was the scene, again, massive spoilers, so apologize. The scene where Theo comes and tells me that, I'm going to spoil everything for those who haven't seen it. When Theo comes to prison and tells me that it was my mom responsible for, that terrible deed. And that was about I gotta say, probably about a 6-page scene, which is very, very long for us, and I was really terrified, like it's, you learn how to do some tricks as an actor, and you get better at synthesizing things that you haven't experienced before. But Kurt would swing for the fences. I mean, there was circumstances that were supposed to be played with a certain degree of authenticity and reality that was so extreme that it was sometimes very hard to try to find that space. And I was very nervous about trying to do a good job because it was such an important scene and such a wildly extreme scenario. And so I was shitting myself and got myself, I did a lot of work in preparation and got myself really prepared and did the scene, and it actually worked. And Peter Weller was directing, and I said I need to go first and I can't rehearse, and so we just put the cameras on and we just walked in. Theo was already sitting there, and we just did the scene, and it was everything that I hoped it could be. It was by far and away the best work I'd ever done in my whole life. And Peter Weller came in and goes, well, I don't know what that was, but I liked it. I think we're good. I think we can move on. And I said, thanks, let's move on. I don't want to do that. And then Paul Maybaum, our wonderful DP, walked in like he had seen a ghost, and his hands were shaking. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, the camera didn't roll. Let's do it again then. And it was almost as good the second time, but these things happen on a big job. That was my dad's favorite expression. These things happen on a big job. You just gotta get on with it. But that was a rough one.
Those are the days you earn your paycheck.
Yeah, most of the time, believe me when I tell you, we do not earn our pay. Occasionally you do.
You bring up Peter Weller, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, what is it like being directed by RoboCop?
This guy!
He's Mr. Sunglasses indoors and everything.
You are right on it. I love, this guy has so much affectation to him. He's like a cartoon. I love it. He wears a beret, he wears an ascot, he smokes cigars, he has his own personal espresso machine that he brings everywhere, and then in between takes, calls cut, and brings out his French horn, and it's like, I was like, what is going on with this guy? He is the cartoon version, inside and out, of what a director, when you watch Looney Tunes and there's a director with a thing and he's like, it's Peter Weller.
And halfway through our experience working with him, he got his doctorate, right, in art history.
Yeah.
He became Professor Weller.
Dr. Weller.
Dr. Weller.
Oh my gosh.
We had to call him Doctor. Ridiculous.
Let me tell you something about ancient Rome, baby.
That's very good. I'm curious, what were your guys' horror show experiences on the show?
I have two things. One time when I killed my son, that was rough, man. You know what I'm saying?
No, on the show. On the show.
But I remember when me and Charlie were doing the scene, and I said, this is a deal, man. As I'm getting older now, I'm starting to learn how to act now, because when I had to do scenes with Charlie, when I had to do a mean scene, I would always come in mean. I would start the night before and come in pissed off, and Charlie kind of knew the way I worked, so he'd look at me, he nodded at me, he knew I wasn't going to say nothing. Then we'd do our scene, then we'd hug afterwards. I was too method, you dig? And I'm just learning now, these past 4 years, just to act. Because what happens when you do it that way, you're pissed off, and you're pissed off in the scene, and you go home pissed off, you dig what I'm saying? Now I never really would talk to nobody, and it's so stupid. It's not stupid, it's just the way I work. But these past 4 years, I've learned to just act, I go in there and have a good time, just be friendly with everybody. And then when they say action, give me 2 minutes and I'll do my thing. It's just a lot more easier, bro. You dig what I'm saying? It's just more fun. But I remember we were doing the scene where I killed my son. on the show. And I called my real son and I said, I go, mijo, I want to do something right now that I want you to know that I would never do in real life, you know? And he goes, Dad, I know you wouldn't kill me, you know? And when he said that, I started crying, right? And we were shooting a different scene, a different part of that scene. And Billy was directing that, and I go, bro, we gotta film this shit now. He goes, no, we're filming this. I go, no, we're filming this now, bro. Because I was in the moment, and it paid out so well, you know. So I was really, that's just, I get into it too deeply, you know. It's the work, you know.
And let's see, we were over there, so now over here.
How's it going, guys? Want to let you know I appreciate you all being here. I got a chance to chat with you yesterday. It was great. Sons of Anarchy is a great show. You know, we used to rotate which bar we would go to because none of us had cable. I mean, so we would this season we'd go to this bar and watch it because they'd let us sit in the back and watch it and have some beers. And that was our Tuesday night. My friend who's no longer with us, you know, she was as big a fan as I am. So, question for all three of you. You guys have all had some fantastic, you know, character development. You know, Charlie, both physically, mentally, emotionally, as Jack's teller, you know, Obi, and gosh, and there was so much development. You know, Emilio, even into Mayans, we're seeing some really great character development. So my question for you is, can you tell us maybe just a couple of those milestones for you when you were going through as those characters and how you developed through those milestones?
That's an interesting question. You want to start?
Yeah, I mean, for Opie in particular, I did as much research as I can. First of all, I just wanted to point out something. You know, we're talking about sort of method and process. Is